The Moon is Earth's only natural satellite, located about 384,400 kilometers away from us. Its surface is covered with craters, mountains, and flat plains called Maria, formed by ancient volcanic activity and impacts. It goes through phases each month, from new moon to full moon, as it orbits Earth and reflects sunlight. The Moon also affects Earth in big ways. Its gravity pulls on our oceans, causing tides, when the sea level rises and falls twice a day. This helps keep our oceans moving and supports marine life. Its gravity even helps stabilize Earth's tilt, which gives us our seasons. The Moon has no atmosphere, so its surface experiences extreme temperatures and is exposed to space. For thousands of years, people observed the Moon to track time, create calendars, and guide agriculture. In the 20th century, scientists began sending spacecraft to study the Moon up close. The Soviet Luna missions were the first to reach the Moon, sending back photos and data in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The United States followed with the Ranger, Surveyor, and Lunar Orbiter programs, mapping the surface for future landings. In 1969, Apollo 11 became the first mission to land humans on the Moon, marking a major milestone in space exploration. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the lunar surface, while Michael Collins orbited above in the command module. The Moon rocks they brought back helped scientists learn about the Moon's origin and history. Later, Apollo missions explored more sites, set up experiments, and collected more samples for research. The Moon remains a focus for science, technology, and international cooperation. As technology grows, each new lunar missions bring us closer to understanding not only the Moon, but also our place in the universe. Studying the Moon helps us prepare for missions to Mars and beyond. To see how Moon missions became possible, we need to look back at the space race. The space race began in the late 1950s, as the United States and the Soviet Union compete on who could do the coolest stuff in space. This race was driven by a serious disagreement called the Cold War, with both sides trying to show they were the best. The Soviet Union started strong. In 1957, they sent a satellite called Sputnik 1 into space. It was the first thing humans ever put in orbit. It quickly followed with Sputnik 2 carrying the first living creature, a dog named Laika. In response, the United States established NASA in 1958 to send astronauts, build rockets, and explore space faster. The rivalry grew. The Soviets sent the first probe to the Moon, Luna 2, in 1959. In April 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit Earth, a major victory for the Soviet Union and a turning point in the race. The United States responded with Project Mercury, sending Alan Shepard into space in May 1961 and John Glenn into orbit in 1962. President John F. Kennedy set a bold goal in 1961 to land a man on the Moon and return him safely to Earth before the decade was out. This announcement launched the Apollo program. NASA had to build a ginormous rocket called the Saturn V. It was as tall as a 36-story building. They also had to make spacesuits to keep astronauts safe, because space is super cold, super hot, and has no air to breathe. Plus, the Moon's surface is all bumpy with craters and rocks. These early years of the space race set the stage for one of the biggest science and engineering challenges ever, which is the race to the Moon, and the world was forever changed. The competition became more tense. Soviet Luna 3 photographed the Moon's far side, while US Pioneer and Gemini missions paved the way for human spaceflight. The rivalry inspired classrooms worldwide. Students built model rockets, watched launches on TV, and dreamed of becoming astronauts. Science fairs and space clubs became popular, fueling a new generation of explorers. Pop culture exploded with space-themed comics, toys, and movies. The space race even influenced fashion and music, making astronauts and cosmonauts global icons. Internationally, news of each mission was broadcast around the globe. People in Europe, Asia, and Africa followed the race closely, and some countries even issued stamps and held celebrations for major milestones. The competition led to new materials, medical devices, and satellite technology that changed daily life, such as weather satellites and improved communications. The space race also encouraged international cooperation, with scientists from different countries sharing data and ideas, laying the groundwork for future partnerships like the International Space Station. The legacy of this era is seen in every rocket launch, science classroom, and space movie today. The space race proved that competition can drive progress and inspire the world. Building a rocket to reach the Moon was one of the most complex engineering feats in history. Engineers had to design rockets that could withstand intense heat, vibration, and pressure during launch. Every rocket part, from the smallest bolt to the massive engines, had to be precisely manufactured. The Saturn V rocket, for example, stood over 110 meters tall and used more than 3 million parts. Its engines burned fuel so powerful the exhaust could melt concrete. Special lightweight materials like titanium and aluminum alloys were used to keep the rocket strong but not too heavy. The engines had to generate millions of pounds of thrust to escape Earth's gravity. Teams of scientists and engineers ran thousands of tests, fixing problems and improving designs after every failure. Rocket engines were test-fired repeatedly to make sure they could survive the stress of launch. New heat shields and insulation were invented to protect astronauts from extreme temperatures. Computers were developed to guide the rocket and make split-second decisions during flight. Astronauts needed custom-built suits to survive the vacuum of space and walk on the moon. Lunar modules acted as mini spaceships, keeping them safe and mobile on the lunar surface. Every piece of equipment was tested, improved, and sometimes completely redesigned. There was no room for error because lives depended on every detail. The early rockets like the Vanguard and several Atlas launches exploded on the pad or veered off course. The Ranger missions often crashed or missed the moon entirely before finally succeeding. Surveyor landers sometimes failed to touch down safely. The most tragic setback was Apollo 1, when a fire during a test killed 3 astronauts and exposed fatal flaws in the spacecraft. It was a heartbreaking loss that shook NASA to its core. In response, NASA overhauled the Apollo capsule, replacing flammable materials and adding emergency escape systems. Engineers redesigned wiring, improved hatch mechanisms, and demanded stricter safety checks. New spacesuits and life support systems were tested and upgraded after early failures in vacuum chambers. Every failed rocket, broken part, and accident became a lesson for the next mission. NASA's resilience was key to reaching the moon. The path to the moon was never easy, but every problem solved brought success closer. Failure wasn't the end, it was part of the journey, and perseverance made the dream possible. Sending astronauts to the moon required a massive, coordinated effort. Nearly 400,000 people across the U.S. worked on Apollo. Scientists, engineers, seamstresses, programmers, and more. Scientists designed experiments and studied spaceflight challenges. Engineers built rockets, spacecraft, and life support systems. Seamstresses sewed the spacesuits by hand, ensuring every stitch was perfect. Programmers wrote the code that guided the spacecraft to the moon and back. Contractors, universities, and NASA centers across the country collaborated, sharing knowledge and solving problems together. Mission Control in Houston was the nerve center, monitoring every step and making split-second decisions. Teams worked around the clock, guiding astronauts and troubleshooting in real time. Engineers and technicians checked every detail, from rocket engines to computer systems. Inspectors and quality control experts made sure every part was safe and reliable. The journey to the moon was powered by teamwork as much as rocket fuel. Every success was built by thousands of people working together, united from all backgrounds. On July 16, 1969, at 9:32 a.m. Eastern Time, Apollo 11 launched from Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The world watched as history unfolded live on TV. The Saturn V rocket was the most powerful rocket ever built. It generated 7.5 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, carrying the Apollo spacecraft toward the moon. The crew consisted of Commander Neil Armstrong, Lunar Module pilot Buzz Aldrin, and Command Module pilot Michael Collins. Each had a critical role in the mission's success. Armstrong would command the mission. Aldrin would operate the lunar module, and Collins would remain in lunar orbit, piloting the command module Columbia. Millions of people around the globe watched the launch, gathered in homes, schools, and public squares. The event was broadcast live in 33 countries. In Mission Control, teams of experts monitored every system, ready to respond to any problem. 3, 2, 1. The Saturn V cleared the tower and accelerated through the atmosphere. Each stage separated perfectly, sending Apollo 11 into Earth orbit and then toward the moon. The rocket's engines burned for over 11 minutes, reaching speeds of more than 24,000 miles per hour. The journey would take about 3 days. During the flight, the crew checked systems, practiced maneuvers, and prepared for the lunar landing. Every step was carefully rehearsed. Michael Collins remained in the command module, orbiting the moon alone, while Armstrong and Aldrin prepared the lunar module, Eagle, for descent. Armstrong and Aldrin transferred into Eagle, checking controls and systems for the most critical phase, landing on the moon's surface. As the spacecraft neared the moon, its gravity pulled them in. The surface, covered in craters and dust, came into view through the small windows. The lunar landscape was stark and silent, a place no human had ever visited. Armstrong and Aldrin sealed themselves inside the lunar module, ready to undock and begin their descent to the surface. The Eagle separated from Columbia, beginning its slow, careful approach to the moon. Every maneuver was monitored by mission control. Around the world, people held their breath, united by hope and anticipation for a safe landing. The lunar module descended, its engines firing to slow the fall. The most dangerous part of the mission was about to begin, landing on the moon with no second chances. Armstrong and Aldrin relied on their training, quick thinking, and support from mission control to guide them safely down. Every second counted as they searched for a safe landing site, dodging craters and boulders in the final moments. The Eagle hovered just above the surface, engines firing gently as Armstrong prepared to land. History was about to be made. The dream of reaching the moon was within reach. As the Eagle lunar module descended toward the moon, its computer triggered several alarms, code 1201 and 1202, signaling the computer was overloaded but still functioning. Mission Control in Houston quickly analyzed the situation and gave Armstrong and Aldrin the go-ahead to continue the landing. Neil Armstrong took manual control of the Eagle, steering away from a hazardous boulder field and searching for a safe landing site. He guided the module past craters and large rocks, keeping a close eye on the remaining fuel. With just about 20 seconds of fuel left, Armstrong brought the Eagle down safely in the Sea of Tranquility. Armstrong radioed, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." The world erupted in relief and celebration. After landing, Armstrong and Aldrin prepared for their moonwalk, donning life support backpacks and checking their suits for leaks. Armstrong descended the ladder and set foot on the lunar surface, saying, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for humankind." Buzz Aldrin soon joined him, describing the landscape as magnificent desolation. The astronauts bounced in the moon's low gravity, moving carefully to avoid falling. They planted the American flag, set up a plaque, and spoke with President Nixon by radio from the lunar surface. Armstrong and Aldrin deployed scientific instruments, including a seismometer to measure moonquakes and a retroreflector to bounce lasers from Earth. They collected 21.5 kilograms of lunar rocks and soil samples for study back on Earth. After spending about 2.5 hours outside, the astronauts returned to the Eagle and rested before liftoff. The ascent stage of the lunar module blasted off, leaving the descent stage behind, and rejoined Michael Collins in lunar orbit. The crew then began their journey home, safely returning to Earth, and completing one of humanity's greatest achievements. When Apollo 11 splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean, people around the world cheered. News broadcasts showed celebrations from New York to Tokyo, uniting millions in a moment of shared win. Even the Soviet Union acknowledged their achievement. The astronauts became instant global heroes, honored by parades, medals, and meetings with world leaders. Their journey proved that humanity could achieve the impossible when nations work together and share knowledge. Apollo 11 inspired new international partnerships in science and space exploration, leading to future missions and collaborations. The mission also sparked a wave of interest in science, technology, engineering, and math, encouraging students worldwide to dream big. NASA's work on Apollo led to inventions like improved computer chips, satellite communications, and even cordless tools. Medical devices, fire-resistant materials, and water purification systems all benefited from Apollo technology. Moon rocks brought back by the astronauts helped scientists unlock secrets about the moon's age, composition, and the history of our solar system. The success of Apollo 11 paved the way for more missions to the moon, robotic explorers to Mars, and the International Space Station. It opened a new era of exploration, inspiring missions to Mars, Jupiter, and beyond. The next time you look up at the moon, remember, no dream is too big if we chase it together. The adventure continues, and the next chapter is up to us.